All right, let's do another installment on the Chevy restoration project. And so previous videos, I did the water pump, I replaced some belts, some hoses, that kind of thing. I got the truck up to roadworthy. Then in the second video, I came in and I replaced the headlights, the daytime running light, turn signal, side marker assembly down there on the bottom. Upgraded some bulbs in there to make all that work, but basically just trying to swap those lights out so that they look a lot better, and then also they're giving a lot better illumination down the road. So that was another upgrade that I made. And then now the one that I really need to get to is my electrical issue that I'm having with my windows, my door locks, and my power mirrors. So the situation that I have here now on this 2000 Chevy Silverado is that neither one of my power windows, or I should say neither one of my windows, driver's side or passenger side, neither one of those power windows work. My power mirrors do not work either side, and my door lock only works on the driver's side. So I need to get in here. What I've decided to do first is just start to throw replacement parts on it at this point. What I have done up to this point is, so what I attempted first was to try this master switch over here. This is the one obviously that controls the driver's side and the passenger side, and that also came with the door lock mechanism. The power mirror switch itself is a separate switch. I have that on order. When I put this master switch in, that didn't help anything. My windows still don't operate. My door lock works over here on the driver's side, but it does not work on the passenger side. So replacing this master switch did nothing for me. So now what I'm going to do is I have window regulators that I'm going to put in, seeing if maybe it's a motor on these window regulators that went out. Get these door panels off, put the new regulator in, get everything hooked back up, and see if that I'm starting to get some resolution to my issues here. So what I'm doing is just throwing parts at this thing. It's not a completely bad thing to do at this point. This vehicle has 173,000 miles on it, and you know, I don't mind coming in here and replacing those parts. They're not incredibly expensive, to be perfectly honest with you. I think this switch was $30. It didn't work, but at least it's a new switch. Regulators are fairly inexpensive nowadays. Years ago, I've replaced regulators on these once before. Years ago, they were a lot more expensive. Nowadays, you can get them for $40, $50. What I am going to do is I'm going to start with the passenger side, because I have that regulator right now, and my driver's side regulator should be here either today or tomorrow. But I do have the regulator for the passenger side, so let's get started over there first. All right, so I am going to change the passenger side window regulator on this 2000 Chevy Silverado. I do have that regulator with me today. I also ordered a new OEM speaker for it as well, because these things kind of got old and cracked out, and they kind of vibrate and squeal and all kinds of stuff. So while I have this whole door panel off, I'm going to replace that speaker as well. So let's get to this regulator. This is actually a pretty easy process. You really don't need tools for a good bit of this. Just get your hand up underneath this right here. Just get a good hand hold up underneath there and pull it up, and this whole switch panel comes out. Now this is something that you may notice. These clips right here, sometimes they will stay in these slots instead of adhering to the switch panel itself. So these will have to be pulled out of here, reinserted onto the switch panel when you stick this thing back in. So I've noticed that a couple times when I've taken these off, that these things have a tendency to just kind of stay in place. I'll show you that here in just a minute. And then now I just need to take this switch off right here, or the plug I should say, and then this whole thing, we just set it off to the side. So let me get that plug off real quick. Okay, there is going to be a bolt underneath this cover plate right here next to your handle. So you're going to need to get the cover plate off. Very simple, no tools either. Just get your hand up underneath there, start popping it off, get it out of the way, and you can see the bolt that you're going to need to get to right there. And then in order to get this panel off, we're also going to have to take this plate off. This is another one. Just get your fingers up underneath it and start prying it loose. No big deal. All right, we're going to get this bolt out right here, 7mm. Yeah, I thought there was a third bolt. I kept thinking, when I've taken these off before, I kept thinking there's 3 bolts. So there is one more right up underneath the handle right here. You can get to it very easily with an extension on your socket. It's also a 7mm. And then the last bolt is this one right here, just right behind the handle, and that's a 10mm. All right, we're also going to get this door switch mechanism right here. Just pry it out. Just has a couple little small tabs right there that kind of lock in place. You pull that out. And then everything should just start to pry up at this point. You just kind of pull up on it. You're going to pull it out of the lip up here where the window is, and then that also lifts up some tabs that are down on the bottom. And then once you start to pull it away, you're going to have some cables in here. This one up here is for the speaker, or the tweeter actually is what this one's for. And then there's also one down here at the bottom for your door light. So we'll get that one off, and then this door is free. All right, and then the whole thing is free. Pretty easy process. All right, so we're going to start to take this regulator off here in just a second. It's just a few bolts on each side, and there's also some clamps in here that actually hold on to the bottom of the window. And so before you start getting in here and taking all that off, highly recommend that you put some tape. I'm going to use some duct tape right here to just hold the window up in place. That way when you start to take this regulator off and take everything loose, you do not want that window slamming down inside of there or potentially falling out if you hit it the wrong way, because then you'll end up with a broken window and you got more issues. So tape up your window. Now the other thing we're going to want to get to is the regulator itself. It has 6 bolts that's associated with it. So we have 3 right here, 1, 2, and there's another one down at the bottom. And then over here on the other side, it is, I believe it is 1, 2, and then there's one down there at the bottom. And then we have 2 bolts that are going to be inside. These are the clamps that hold on to the bottom of the window. There's one here, and there is one right inside there. So there's 2 of those that you have to deal with. And then there is also the actual motor itself, which is located right here. There'll be 1 more bolt. So anyway, we'll just start taking all of those off real quick, and we should get that regulator loose pretty quick. Okay, and then there's also a plug for the motor itself, which I didn't take off initially, but you're going to have to take a plug off this motor. With all those bolts out of the way, you should just be able to kind of fold this up. And pull it out. And there it is. All right, new regulator. So just kind of fold it up, put it back down in this slot. Stand it up. I'll show you something here in a second. You can actually hang this in place just momentarily. while you are trying to get all your bolts and everything aligned. And what you have is these very small little tabs right here that are attached to this regulator. You just put them inside these slots and everything will just hang there momentarily until you can get your bolt holes realigned and start to get your bolts back in there. So it's designed to work like that. So you can just hang everything in place momentarily while you're trying to get everything all situated. So then you just start putting your bolts back in place, secure everything. Okay, before I secure everything, something that I wanted to do is I wanted to plug the motor in, and I went ahead and temporarily plugged the switch back in, and I want to make sure that this works. And it does. I've got Windows, yay team. And then the other reason that I need to do that is because I need to drive this window holder up to the bottom of the window. So if this didn't work and for some reason I had other issues, then I would have had to take this regulator back out because there's no way for me to drive it. But in this case, the new regulator works. So now what I'm going to do is drive these window catches right here up to the bottom of the window so that I can tighten them down. So that's why I needed to figure out if all this was going to work. Okay, so with the motor plugged in and the switch put back on, I brought power onto the truck. And then what I did was I just ran the window regulator up. And so what I had to do was loosen up these pinch points. And so these are what attach to the bottom of the window. It's just kind of like a pinch. And then that bolt right there closes it up around the bottom of the window. So they were all the way down here at the bottom. And of course my window is attached up here at the top. I could either let the window down or bring the motor up. So I just went ahead and brought the motor up to the bottom of the window, tightened the bolt, did that on the other side. Go ahead and tighten the rest of the bolts that are holding the entire regulator assembly on. You're all tight, and now you can start putting the panel and everything on. Okay, the speaker is very easy as well. You have a tab right here on the top, and so I use the screwdriver, just push down on it, and then just come around the side and pry it out. And pretty simple. And then just one of the typical plugs on the back, just squeeze it, pull it out, and then put the new one in. So I got direct OEM replacement, plug and play. I didn't upgrade to any fancy speakers or anything like that. Mainly because this thing has this frame around it, and it has a very specific way of mounting into that door. And any new speakers that you would get, all of this frame would have to be pried off of there, and it would have to be put on a new speaker. And then also this connector right here would have to be transferred to a new speaker and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm okay with that. You can get these for about $50 each, and direct OEM replacement, so that's the way that I decided to go. Alright, so we got the brand new speaker. You can see it has the frame and everything already installed, has the clip already installed, has the existing connector, so it's just going to be a plug and play. So just plug it back in. Has two slots at the bottom. Just put it in the slots, rotate it up, click it in place, speaker replacement. Alright, so I like that. As long as you use the OEM speakers, that makes that nice and easy. But you know, I'm sure some audio guys out there, they don't mind doing all that kind of stuff, but I didn't want to have to mess with that. Alright, so I got all of this back in. I know that the regulator works. Now it's just a matter of putting the panel back on, hooking everything up, and we are done. I've got a window again. Okay, and then I mentioned earlier when I took this door control switch off that these clips right here, they stayed in the door. what they should do is they should come out and stay on the switch panel. So it's not unusual. Just about every time I've taken this off, this has happened. So all you have to do is just get a pair of needle nose and just pull these things out. And then it comes out like that. And then what should happen is that it stays on the panel. But what it has just a small little tab in there, and just take it and slide it right back down over the top of your switch panel like that. Just squeeze it down on there, and more than likely if you take this thing off again, they'll stay in the door again. But anyway, this is, now you would probably say, well, just put the thing back down on it, but you're never going to get this tab to line back up with it properly. I have found, just take it out of the door, put it back on the switch, and then shove everything back down there. I've found that's the easiest way for me. All right, and then we will just go ahead and put the connector back on the door switch. Kind of feel it pop into place a little bit. All right, and then you got a tab right here that you're going to put into a slot. And then you will just line up those tabs, press it into place, and everything's back on. You take this down here, which came off of the door handle, and just slide it back over the door handle, put it into place, snap everything back in. All right, and it's back together. I got this thing working. We will take the tape off of the window, and I have got my window back on that side. That's awesome. So let's hope that it's only the regulator on the driver's side as well. And we're in business over here on this side. All right, let's go to the other side. All right, so let's go over here to the driver's side. I did in fact get that window regulator in yesterday afternoon. And so we're going to put that new regulator in on this side and hope that I have the same result as I did over there on the passenger side. So I'm not going to go through all the details on this. It's basically wash, rinse, repeat as I did on the other side. You know, just pulling the switch panel off, getting access to the back side of that, taking that regulator out, putting it back in. So just a couple highlights here, but I'm not going to go through all the details. Let's get started. All right, we got that done. That was actually a good result. That was the best result that I could have hoped for. I was really concerned that I was going to be dealing with some broken wires or some deeper issues when it came to those windows. And the only reason that I thought that is because I had changed those regulators. Now, granted, it was about 5 years ago, but I would I would expect that you could get longer than 5 years out of those. I mean, this truck is 20 years old, and when I changed those out 5 years ago, they were the original motor and regulators that were in there. So that means the first ones lasted 15 years. So I guess I had just convinced myself that it couldn't have been the regulator or the motor rather. But maybe that explains why you can get them fairly cheap these days, because they're just not really good quality. I don't know. But anyway, they're not that difficult to change. As far as getting in there and taking out the door panel and getting that all disassembled, it really doesn't take long. It's not that hard to do. So I'm glad that it was just the motor. And we got both power windows back up and operating again. Changed out the power mirror switch over there on the driver's side, and that fixed my power mirrors. So I'm glad that that was just a switch and not an internal motor somewhere. And the door lock over on the passenger side, that's probably just going to be the actual mechanism that's in the door. And to be perfectly honest with you, as long as the one works on the driver's side right now, I'm not too totally upset about having one of my door lock switches that's not working. So good result. So grand total, that is 3 phases of this 2000 Chevy Silverado project to get this thing back up and operating properly again. Of course, the water pump and all the stuff that I did to that in the first video has got this thing roadworthy again, and it's running great. And then I decided to go in there and refurbish all the lights and change those out. And then I've got the power windows and the power mirrors working again. So that's great. I'm looking forward to having this thing roadworthy again. I really like this truck. I want to keep it up and operating as best I can. And I think probably at this point, see, this is the part that I always have the biggest problem with. So now I keep thinking, maybe I want to change these bumpers out to black ones. I want to change the mirrors out to black. I want to put some black wheels on it. Let's just stop right there for right now. Maybe that'll be another installment down the road. Right now, let's call the Chevy project complete. On to the next job.